Hello there, and welcome to this last episode actually on a great series that we've been looking at, which is unlocking the power of brands within your organisation. In this final episode, I want to look at the role of brand within your organisation. So far we've spent some time looking at a number of different subjects like what is brand, its history, what it's not, brand trust and perception, and we've also looked to kind of unpick what perception really is and the reasons also why brand is so important. In this last talk, I want to clarify the extent of the impact that brand can have within an organisation when it's fully realised. So the branding projects that I've worked on that have been most enjoyable and most satisfying aren't necessarily the ones that have the nicest brand identity or have even won the most awards or anything like that. It's the ones that have really taken the brand strategy that was developed and then found ways to integrate that throughout their entire organisation. At Kind, we've looked to systematise that approach where we've focused on building brand-led organisations rather than just providing rebranding services. That's a critical part of the process. It signals change, it brings companies up to date and helps them to be more pointed as they approach the market. But the real value that we've really hoped to sort of embed through this series and continue to talk about today is this idea of creating lasting value, leaving no value on the table and making sure that the brand strategy gets integrated throughout the organisation. Today I'm going to talk through this in greater detail and provide you with some principles to give you a primer and understanding the connection between brand and organisational success and really just where the two connect. So stick around, I'm sure you're going to find it super valuable. There are many ways to lead a business that change from organisation to organisation, and many different organisations approach their priorities as to how they make decisions differently. So they can be financial. Some companies can make sure that the balance sheet dictates what they do and how they drive their business forward. Others are more internally driven, so the team, for example, makes decisions. Others are more product orientated, and so they make decisions based upon what product they need to get to the market. Others maybe are more market driven. They are responsive to the market and what's going on in the market and let the market dictate what they do. But every organisation at one level or another will have a way to make decisions and to choose how they drive their organisation forward. A report was recently produced by Bowers Allen Hamilton and Wolf Ollins as they combined together to do a survey that they conducted among marketing and sales officers in pretty much every sector that researched basically the disparity between brand-led and non-brand-led organisation and how there is a variation between the two at times and what impact that has on the success of those organisations. And this was a study that was done kind of in an industry neutral sense, and so it wasn't necessarily that they just focused on more brand focused kind of categories like hospitality, for example, but also on banking and other such industries. So one of the things that kind of came from this was that they outlined a framework that explained how different organisations are approaching brand and the sophistication and emphasis that they place upon brand within their organisation or brand-led activities. And so you've got to think of a sort of a sliding scale. So on the left-hand side you had those particular organisations that might not necessarily be highly brand-led. They don't have much of an emphasis upon brand. They might recognise it as being sort of an aspect of marketing, for example, that they need to adhere to, but really it doesn't affect the core of who they are. A lot of their internal activities don't really have much of an impact when it comes to using brand as a filter. Then you kind of move on to the second group that has a emerging priority on brand and considers brand to be much more important than maybe the former set that would consider it maybe just to be a sort of a peripheral thing. They want it to be more of a central thing, but maybe there are other aspects of the organisation that are driving them forward. So they're kind of in the middle. And then you kind of move on to the far right hand side and then beyond. And those are companies that really are what we would consider to be brand-led companies. They have a kind of a really strong emphasis on brand. They have profound consumer insights, strong alignment of brand within the business and the strategy, and implement sophisticated kind of brand activities and have brand tools that help them to measure their success. So as you see on the scale from left to right, you have this kind of like exponential increase on the role of brand within those organizations. The critical point is that on average, regardless of sector, the research shows that brand-led companies have profitability margins of nearly twice that of the industry standard. Brand-guided banks, for example, have a return on equity of 19% compared to 8% of banks in the other two categories. In the industrial goods sector, brand-guided companies achieve an EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization, margins of around 17% compared to 10% for the remaining players. So that we know that brand-led companies have a distinct advantage of those that are on the former side of the scale. But to create a brand-led organisation, you have to become the type of organisation that means that you, like a stick of rock, wherever you cut it, you're going to see brand running all the way through it in every area, from products to services to culture and all of that other good stuff. Therefore, the challenge is for all of us in this that we have to stop thinking about brand as this sort of separate discipline within the organisation and think of it as integral and the driving force behind the direction of the organisation. Don't think of it as a book that you take off the shelf, think of it as the entire bookshelf. In the age that we're living in, organisations will ultimately fail if they don't think through the lens of their audience. The brand therefore becomes this fantastic connective tissue between the audience and your organisation. Your brand means that for your business, you have every area considered and every area needs to be thought through from the audience perspective. So, we come to a close in the second understanding of the power of brands. We've looked at the reasons why investing in brand is so critical, and that brand isn't an experience, but the core perception that your audience has of your organisation. But what does this mean for you? If you're an agency looking to support clients in building their brands, are you thinking holistically enough about the impact of the work that you do and how that ultimately drives their potential entire business forward? What value are you leaving off the table as you're advising and working on behalf of clients? Thank you. We've reached the end of this particular episode on unlocking the power of brands within your organisation. This has been at all helpful for you. Why don't you subscribe and stay in contact with us? All our contact details are in the comments below. And if there's anything that we can do to support you as you're going through your journey of building a brand-led organisation, we'd love to help. So till next time, thanks very much. Bye.